have to find the basic truth of that story and of that person. And sometimes truth gets in the way of reality, or reality gets in the way of truth. So you have to dramatize certain things, you have to leave out certain things. You know, film is so huge, so if a character does, for example, in A Beautiful Mind, I think they had a reason that they didn't show certain things. It would have gotten in the way of the more important truth of the story. So I firmly believe that you can take liberties as long as you don't tell a lie that totally distorts who this person or what this story was all about.
Interesting question. I once worked for a man who ran Columbia Pictures, actually. He was a bit of a scoundrel in some respects. Taught me a great deal. He used to say, I may not tell you everything, but what I tell you is the truth. And I guess that to some extent, that's, I guess, what one is saying. I think you have to find the truth of that character, and is it important? We're talking about Beautiful Mind. The guy, the main allegation was they left out the fact he was anti-Semitic.
Right.
The defense was that the anti-Semitism came during a period of frenzied paranoia. I'm a super Jew. Say anything wrong about Jews or Israel and you're off my team. You're just off my team, out of my game. If that's true, okay, he gets a pass. I would have left that out, okay? I mean, I'm not really as sane as that. Am I true? What I'm saying is that I would not give anyone a pass for that kind of racism, anti-Semitism, or any of those isms. But if that's the case, I would give him a pass on that. So I think that would be reasonable. That's not part of the truth of that character. But it is important that you find the truth of that character. And the test of whether or not you're doing that should be that truth must ring through every scene. We said this earlier. Just as every cell of the being has within it the DNA, which is a replication of the RNA, which defines the organism, so every scene should have within it the truth of the entire piece. Once you've arrived at what the truth is, that's got to, if it's real, it's going to be in every scene. And if it isn't, you know, you're going to know it. The audience is going to know it.
Right.
I think the scientists say that phylogeny replicates ontology, I said earlier, or the other way around. But in any event, you know, just as the stages of the embryo supposedly replicate evolution, likewise your script should do the same thing. And if it does, then you're being true. If you're not, and if you're having trouble, then you're not being truthful. And if you're doing scattershotting, for example, the kind of thing that Oliver Stone does, then you're lying. And you're serving another agenda. And that's a perversion. And you are a scourge upon the land.
And your thoughts on you know, what's acceptable? I mean, certainly in Beautiful Mind, we're talking about omitting something about a character or who he was, perhaps. What about the other side of it, where we fictionalize or we create something? Do we say that, well, this could have happened in their life, or this might have happened based on what I've read and what I've written?
We're dealing with drama.
Right.
So we've got 2 hours to tell a story. Our lives don't fit into neat 3-act structures.
Sure.
If we're asked to do that. So, for example, in Amelia Earhart, and I think I've got clips somewhere, I wanted to very quickly and succinctly say, okay, here was a woman who was a feminist way ahead of her time. Here was a woman who was, in a way, being exploited, although she was exploiting herself. She was a product. So I invented scenes that didn't happen, but which illustrated that, and I did not feel in the least bit guilty about doing that. On the other hand, if I'd had Amelia Earhart having an affair with the president, you know, that would not have been correct.
Would have thought. Here's an example of Varian Fry. Never actually threw himself between an oncoming car with a Vichy French officer and some escaping refugees. But what did he do? Every day he went into an office under the very watchful eyes of the Vichy, who were looking for him, who wanted to get him, who wanted to kill him, were trying to assassinate him. He literally risked his life every day and got those people out. But unfortunately, it wasn't very dramatic. It's a guy going to work with an umbrella, sitting there and looking out the window while they're watching me now. You can only do that so many times. Ultimately, I got one scene, and I have the scene here where the Frenchman says, "Be careful, be warned," you know? Okay, but you can't do that so many times. And so in the end, you must have a way of saying to the audience, look, this is what this guy did. This guy risked his life to save these people, and the only way you could ultimately do it was with one great big scene at the end. And so I don't feel that saying, okay, but by putting him in that dramatic situation, the actor, and that's the biggest cheat I've ever made in my whole life. I've done, I think, about 40 docudramas, and that's the biggest cheat I ever made. But I did it was fair. It was fair for this guy. He took tremendous risk, and in the end, they did find him, and he got a, but they decided they weren't going to assassinate him. But he was told, they said, for saving Jews and other anti-Nazis, you were herewith expelled from France. That was the French. Anyway, neither here nor there. But, so I'm sorry, that was a lot of talk. But so I think that's a cheat, but it's not really a cheat, because that's what he did. Metaphorically, he put his body between those refugees